They say every day is for the thief, one day for the owner of the house. But ICPC, the Anti-Corruption Commission, has reversed the role. It is now every day for the owner of the house. If you're involved in bribery, over-invoicing, or any shady deal, the day of reckoning has come. ICPC, the Anti-Corruption Commission, is watching you. If you're reported for any corrupt practice, you'll be investigated, prosecuted, and punished. Corruption is harmful to our nation. Join the campaign against it by reporting any corrupt practice to ICPC, the Anti-Corruption Commission.
Let we join hands with ICPC, make them better.
Let's make Nigeria great again.
ICPC, they want you.
Come on, hand for corruption.
Break the chain of corruption now. Don't give, don't take. This message is brought to you by ICPC, the Anti-Corruption Commission.
Welcome to Corruption Must Go, ICPC's weekly television program. I am Hawa Garba. Every time a new year begins, people set out to better themselves. They do a retrospect on what was achieved, what was not achieved, what was not done right, and what is needed to be done to improve on the previous year's achievements. They then make resolutions, set new objectives that are usually penned down, and they endeavor to keep them. As it is for individuals, so should it be for a nation when the opportunity of a new year is used to take stock and set out fresh national aspirations. The advent of a new year depicts hope, aspirations, and the possibility of a better life, which is made possible through a corruption-free society. Our crew went out to speak with Nigerians on their expectations in the new year. Take a look at this.
Let we join hands with ICPC, make them better.
Let's make Nigeria great again.
ICPC, they want you.
Come on, hand for corruption.
Break the chain of corruption now. Don't give, don't take. This message is brought to you by ICPC, the Anti-Corruption Commission.
Now, what are your expectations as regards the fight against corruption in Nigeria in 2020?
Okay, this year has been a very tough one, and I expect it to be very much better by next year. Tough in the sense that I think corruption starts from the grassroots. As a layman, everybody looks for extra source of income rather, because of the economy. So everybody wants to bribe their way or maneuver their way into getting extra funds because they have a lot of responsibilities. Secondly, the government has not been helping. Looking at those in power, look at the Senate, people in the House of Senate, for example. The money they get is way too much. Their salary is way too much. Talking about the money for security, they are only facing Boko Haram. The Boko Haram area, we have the Fulani headsmen, we have community crisis, we have rogues almost in every community. They should learn to spread their feathers everywhere, not just facing the Boko Haram. Then that of social media, we as youths today are more in one way or the other addicted to one social platform or the other. We can use this to talk to ourselves. That's a way. It's the easiest way to get to the youth is the social media. So if you can use this to curb corruption, it will be very fine.
Expectations for 2018 in the fight against corruption?
I think ICPC, they have not been very feasible in the past years. If I may give my opinion, and most of the things they said they are independent. Corrupt practice and other offenses. So for a body like that, I think going to common thing like bribery. Every year you hear police talk about roadblocks. They talk about bail is free, but it's not practiced. They talk about going to school, extortion. You see lecturers taking advantages of students. You go to the offices, government offices, they expect you to give money before any job is being done. And these are petty things that dip into our characters. So I think ICPC should maybe have a social platform for people to be able to liaise with them, tell them, give them vital information. Because when people know that, okay, if I give you an information, you're going to use it to my good, definitely I can volunteer to say, okay, I went to so and so office, I met so and so officer, he asked me for so and so before he could help me do this. So I think ICPC should, I know we've heard a lot about the big money bags and the rest of the thing, but it's not helping. Because when you say corruption, it doesn't end in somebody having the position. How many people have position that will steal billions? Very few fractions of Nigeria. But when you come to the real thing, like the ones I've mentioned, it cut across offices, both government and private. Yeah.
I expect a good thing to happen to this country. That people, the civil servant, they should deliver everybody should at least be on their toes to put everything in order, and we should give the government the support. At least we've seen a little bit that I've done in respect to this insurgency and other things, and we thank God. The issue of this, if you can recall, this issue of fuel, some days we've experienced since this government took over. So at least we never experience this kind of things like this, at least for a few days, which I believe by next week all this thing will gone. So
2017 was a conventional year for all, but just the later end of it, the fuel scarcity emanated. But for 2018, I believe it will be a better year for everyone, especially Nigerians. And if they are going to fight corruption, as it were, one, they should reduce the cost of governance. In the situation whereby the take home of one particular man is at that of 50 persons, is questionable. So if they reduce the cost of governance, corruption will be reduced to the minimum. And two, they should concentrate more on infrastructure. If you look at the roads are not motorable. You go to the Benin Axis, you go to Lagos Axis, the eastern part of the country, those axes are very, very bad. And so they should also focus more on corruption. Like the 1 billion they are talking about, this is a money made for the whole states. I'm not against security, checking security and all that, but I believe that the 1 million is very laudable, because if they say they were what do you call it, the Boko Haram has been defeated, so that money is so much. We are not fighting war. We are not fighting war, as it were. So at least other states also, like this Fulani herdsmen and other things that are happening in various states, also should also be looked into. You just don't concentrate the money on one particular place is questionable. So the corruption, as it were, the leadership also need to check themselves, because you and I, we don't have access to this money they are withdrawing and spending recklessly. And so they also need to work on themselves. Just as I said from the beginning, one, the cost of governance should be reduced drastically. If the office is not lucrative, many people will not want to go there. Now, if a senator is paid 150,000 a salary per month, will not want to become a senator. Now, if a House of Rep member is paid 100,000 a month, will not want to become a House of Rep member. But because of the money involved, that's why a lot of people is becoming a do or die. So if they reduce the cost of governance, corruption will be reduced in this country. That is my take. God bless you.
Concerning the issue of 2018, what Nigeria is expecting from our President Muhammadu Buhari, he is a man with integrity that Nigeria respect. So Nigeria want to see the fight against corruption, that the powerful people that they have taken away all that belongs to the country, the entire country, Nigeria. We want to see the president sending them to jail according to the rules and regulations of the country. Because when you are fighting corruption and at the end of the day, there is no single individual that has been sent to the prison, at least Nigeria will not be happy about the fight against corruption. We have
2018, we are optimistic and we are hopeful that it will be a better year than before. And in respect of anti-corruption, fighting against corruption, which is one of our critical problems we have in this country, anyway, it demands all of us joining hands to fight corruption. And the government in power, led by President Muhammadu Buhari, In fact, I have to give him kudos. He has been doing a lot. He has done a lot.
Make we join hand with ICPC, make them better.
Let's make Nigeria great again.
ICPC, they want to.
Come on, hand for corruption.
Break the chain of corruption now. Don't give, don't take. This message is brought to you by ICPC, the Anti-Corruption Commission.
Corruption not in my country.
This CV is for Eugenia here. She's here for the vacancy. See to the CV and she got the job.
Could you please wait for me at the reception? But sir.
Yes?
She studied physical and health education.
Yes?
We already shortlisted 3 qualified candidates for the job. They all studied accounting. With all due respect, sir, we need qualified people in the accounts department. People who are good with figures.
How do you know that she does not understand what figures are?
But why do we need a square peg in a round hole?
What is important here is to fill in the vacancy. Anyhow, I will take.
I can't be a part of this. That is a language of corruption. And corruption, not in my country.
Corruption not in my country.
Welcome to this segment. I am Ruth Awodi. The High Court of Akwa Ibom State, sitting in Uyo, has sentenced one Wayo Samuel to 8 years imprisonment for fraud. Samuel was arraigned by ICPC before Honorable Justice Okon A. Okon of High Court 8, Uyo, on an 8-count charge of obtaining by false pretense and receiving benefit for himself with regard to employment into the public service. His ordeal started when one of his victims sent a petition to the commission alleging that the convict had collected the sum of 140,000 naira with a promise to use his position as an Air Commodore in the Nigerian Air Force to assist him get recruited in the service's Batch B Direct Short course for June 2017. ICPC investigations, however, revealed that Samuel was neither an Air Commodore nor a personnel of the Nigerian Air Force. After listening to all the charges brought against him, Samuel pleaded guilty and was consequently sentenced to 8 years imprisonment with an option to pay a cumulative sum of 450,000 naira. The Senate has said that the perennial underfunding of ICPC and other anti-graft agencies in each budget year is an indication that the country is not yet ready to fight corruption. Chairman Senate Committee on Anti-Corruption and Financial Crimes, Senator Chukwuka Utazi, drew the conclusion during the 2018 budget defense by the Commission before the committee. He also lamented that ICPC had been greatly incapacitated with poor funding.
When the new team joins, we will go for waiver. It's not casting mold. It's not casting granite. We are going to join with you to go and make case for waiver to be lifted, so that maybe from service-wide votes to get money to beef up whatever thing you are doing here in terms of capital expenditure and all that, so that things can work. Because it's either you people are there or you are not there, but it's in the interest of Nigerians that you are there. So it's very much in interest that you remain. But you see, the way you people are presently, you are greatly incapacitated from doing your job. And we know that we are ready, willing, and able here to make sure that you people continue doing your job.
The acting chairman of ICPC, Honorable Bako Abdullahi, while briefing the committee, said that the commission was able to recover many properties in 2017, including 199 flats. ICPC has appealed against the judgment of Justice Bello Mohammed Tukur of Zamfara State High Court sitting in Gusau. The judge had ruled against ICPC in a no-case submission entered by the former governor of Zamfara State, Ahmed Rufai Sani, in an ongoing case of alleged diversion of public funds on the major plank that the ex-governor was not a public officer while in office. The commission also appealed against the ruling on the ground that the trial judge did not limit himself to the evidence laid before him by the prosecution. ICPC is therefore asking the Court of Appeal sitting in Sokoto to set aside the ruling and order the defendants to start their defense of the case before another judge of the High Court of Zamfara. That will be all on this segment. Corruption Must Go continues.
Corruption not in my country.
Yes.
Good day, sir.
Good day.
Sir, I'm here in line with my score in the last final exams.
What about your score?
You gave me 55%, sir.
You scored 25%.
Sir, you didn't add my continuous assessment. If you did,
Who told you that? During rain semester, you failed. It means you have one extra year to go.
Oh, sir, please, I beg you in the name of God. I can't afford to have an extra year.
Why are you begging it?
Please, sir, my mother is depending on my graduation, so I can cater for my younger ones.
But you
Please,
failed.
sir. Let's just meet somewhere.
Uh-huh.
Continuous assessment. I'll give it to you. I'll give you continuous assessment. Everything. Just
stop! This is corruption, not in my country.
Stop corruption now.
Corruption not in my country.
If you are just tuning in, this is Corruption Must Go. The fight against corruption is a joint effort of both the government and the masses. It is important that citizens not only expect the best from the government, but to also play their part as major stakeholders in the campaign against corruption. ICPC spokesperson and the head of the Commission's Public Enlightenment Department, Mrs. Rashidat Okodua, has something to say on this.
Thank you for joining us on Corruption Must Go, ma'am.
Thank you very much for inviting me.
What's your expectation for the fight against corruption in 2018?
That's a very good question. 2018, it's a fresh year for everybody. So what are my expectations? I personally would like to see government to continue its onslaught against corruption through strengthening of the anti-corruption agencies, and also to continue to evolve supportive policies. You know, there are policies that would complement the crusade. Examples such as the whistleblowing policy. It's had tremendous impact on the anti-corruption fight. There are also, we now currently also have the National Anti-Corruption Strategy, detailing out how Nigeria intends to deal with corruption across all fronts. So supportive policies like this, strengthening the anti-corruption agencies, will definitely go a long way in bringing a lot of vibrancy to the fight against corruption. So I expect to see more of that. I also expect to see the judiciary and the legislature, continue to support the anti-corruption crusade of government. I expect to see more of that. And finally, in 2018, I would expect to see the anti-corruption agencies continue to implement their mandate in an unrelenting manner. Their mandate across various, aspects. For example, ICPC has a three-pronged mandate against corruption. It has what is called the enforcement, it has prevention, and public education and mobilization against corruption. Now, these three areas are complementary, and there must be a balanced mix of all the three areas for us to achieve an enduring impact in the anti-corruption crusade. So I expect to see that the ACAs will continue to do more of this, to continue to implement their mandates in an unrelenting manner, and to continue to emphasize the importance of getting the citizens on board the crusade.
Thank you, ma'am. As a spokesperson of ICPC, what advice do you have for citizens regarding their role in the success of the anti-corruption war?
There's a lot the citizens can do. But first, let me start from their individual levels. You know, before you can achieve an effective social change, it has to start from individual persons. You cannot have society change if the component individuals, the individuals who form the society, do not change. So change has to start first at individual level. Individuals have to practice integrity in their public and private lives. They cannot be two-faced. You can't be an honest person at church or in the mosque. They know you to be very religious. And then in the office, you are a different character entirely. You steal government money. You do things you're not supposed to do. You do things outside of due process. That's like hypocrisy to me. So individual citizens must first start at their own level. This is a new year. They should turn a new leaf. Secondly, I expect to see that citizens would express zero tolerance for corruption and corrupt persons. They must not continue to accept corrupt persons in our society. They must treat corrupt persons as social outcasts, because the greed of these corrupt persons, their greed and selfishness have affected numerous lives, uncountable lives, have affected them negatively. They have placed other people's lives in jeopardy. So we must treat them as social outcasts. They must not find acceptance amongst us anymore. I also expect that citizens will continue to engage with governance. There is the Freedom of Information Law in operation. It's been around since, I think, 2011. Nigerians need to use that law to be able to demand accountability from public office holders. We are not using the law enough. I also expect that citizens will continue to report corrupt practices and corrupt persons, especially to ICPC, using our various channels for contact. But very quickly, an easy contact that comes to mind is the ICPC toll-free line, 0800, that is 0800 2255 4272, or 0800 call ICPC. Once you call that line, it goes into 5 different lines and it will be picked up toll-free to citizens, especially when the citizens use MTN or they use Glo numbers. So we expect that citizens will remember President Buhari's statement that if we do not kill corruption, corruption will kill us. Therefore, fighting corruption is a collective responsibility. It's the responsibility of every Nigerian citizen across all fronts to fight corruption. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
There is need for a moral reawakening among citizens to further drive the fight against corruption. Let us examine ourselves and the roles we play in the success or failure of the campaign against corruption. Do we always criticize efforts in the fight against corruption but do not make positive efforts to stop those corrupt acts we engage in? This new year, you can start by making the conscious efforts in ensuring that corruption is reduced in your space. Remember, do not look the other way when you witness a corrupt act. Help ICPC fight corruption to a standstill. Report acts of corruption to ICPC on our toll-free number 0800 2255 4272. See you again next week. Bye for now.